Welcome to the Things Most People Forget When Writing Grants by MHM and Associates Enterprise Incorporated. Things most people forget when writing grants include the following. 1. They forget to read the grant announcement carefully. 2. They forget to write concisely. 3. They forget to answer all the questions that are asked. 4. They forget to use headings and subheadings. 5. They forget to use attention-making fonts. 6. They forget to cite references. 7. They forget to make an accurate table of contents. And lastly, 8. They forget to demonstrate community support. One, they forget to read the grant announcements carefully. Writers do not read the entire grant announcement carefully because they think it has too much unnecessary information. But it doesn't. It's all necessary. They think good writing skills are good enough. But they're not. Good writing skills are only half the battle. And lastly, they think since they have read the prior announcements, they think the new one covers the same information. It oftentimes does not. Common points missed when this occurs include the following. Small details related to the grant that could deem applications ineligible and or non-responsive, such as notifying your state point of contact, partners, or funding office. Proven methods or best practices that the funding agency would like the applicant to strongly consider. And registration requirements. Any gaps in your registration will deem you ineligible. Lastly, factors conveying the applicant's eligibility. Oftentimes, applicants realize they are ineligible after they have spent numerous hours working. 2. They forget to write concisely. Grant writers often overwrite because they're passionate about program services. As a result, they have a tendency to go on and on. They want to describe the severity of the situation in complete detail. They want to get their point across. Lastly, they want to convey in as many ways as they can think of why their agency needs the grant funds that are being pursued. Problems that often occur when this happens include the following. The application comes across as being emotional and not factual. It becomes difficult for reviewers to identify key responses. Lastly, having to cut your narrative to meet program required page limits often leads to cutting text that needed to be included because it was required information. Also, keep this in mind. Reviewers don't want to have to read any more than they have to. 3. They forget to answer all questions that are asked. Questions go unanswered because of the following. Many of the required questions have multiple parts. Too often we only answer one or two. And even then, they may be out of order. Always answer your questions in the order that they're asked. Writers tend to only answer questions that they have a strong or good answer for. Writers are not willing to find research or fact-based responses. The problems with leaving questions unanswered are: your answer is deemed as non-responsive. Your score is lowered. And your chances of being funded are greatly reduced. Number 4. They forget to use headings and subheadings. Headings are not used properly because of the following. The entire grant narrative is written as one flowing document. Writers do not break down a grant into required sections and subsections per the questions that are asked. Most are not familiar with a tiered heading system that makes grants easier to read. Remember, the easier the grants are to read, the higher your score will be. The problem with not using headings are reviewers will have a difficult time identifying each required section of the grant. Sections of your response may go unscored if they are not clearly identified. By not using headings, you make it difficult for reviewers to find answers to questions that they are looking to score. A result of all of this will be that your score is low and you will not be funded. Five, they forget to use attention-making fonts. Writers do not use bold, underlined, and italics in grants correctly because writers do not understand how to bring attention to their writing using various fonts. Writers are not consistent in their use of attention-making fonts. The problems with not using attention-making fonts correctly includes the following. Reviewers have a difficulty identifying key points being made in your responses. Reviewers are overwhelmed by the number of emphasized points you are making in your responses. And lastly, there is mass confusion by the reviewer. All of this, again, will result in a lower score, and you won't be funded. 6. They forget to cite references. Writers do not cite references because of the following. They assume they are not needed because they are not writing a term paper. They have not obtained data or supporting documentation from reliable sources. They do not know how to cite references properly. And lastly, they feel their data is general knowledge. This is a huge mistake that many often make. The problem with not citing references include the following. Reviewers will always question where you obtained your data and ask you to verify if they have any questions. Reviewers will ask the validity of statistics and facts presented to them. Reviewers may view you as a minimalist if you do not cite your references, and therefore not recommend you for funding. Lastly, not everyone has the same common knowledge base. 7. They forget to make an accurate table of contents. Writers fail to make a complete table of contents because of the following. They fail to read the announcement carefully regarding the table of contents format, requirements, and/or need. They are not familiar with the importance of headings and subheadings that can help them identify sections of the grants in their table of contents. They add the page numbers at the last second. Formatting a table of contents with proper aesthetics is not easy. Lastly, attachments and their relative page or tracking numbers are not often noted in attachment sections. Problems that occur when you don't create an accurate table of contents include the following. Reviewers cannot verify if you plan to include required grant sections. Reviewers cannot use this document to help them locate where specific answers to their questions are. And your score will be reduced if the table of contents is a required document, or even it may not be scored or funded. Number 8, they forget to demonstrate community support. The importance of reflecting a strong connection within the community is often minimized because of the following. Agencies have yet to build strong connections with local partners. Agencies have not obtained levels of support from local officials. The writer believes that the application is only about the strength of their agency and not the level of community support that they can garner. The problems with not demonstrating a strong connection with the community include the following. It shows a lack of interest and support in your program from other community agencies. The reviewers may not be convinced that your agency can reach the greatest number of targeted individuals as possible. And lastly, it conveys that you have not been effective in reaching out for help in your weakest areas. If you're able to keep these 8 points in mind while you're working on your first or next grant, you'll be more successful. We at MHM wish you good luck writing that grant.